Hey everybody, it's Steve, Short Shift Garage. So welcome back to the channel. Thanks for coming back. Appreciate that. We appreciate all of our subscribers. Um, as you can tell by the title on this video today, we're talking about E85. E85 is a really, really interesting subject. I'm very, very intrigued by it. As are many folks, and a lot of people have been using it already for quite some time. The question is there a solution for E85 for our Dodges? And yeah, there definitely is. But first, let's talk about what E85 is. Well, E85 can vary. The label on the pump says E85, but it can vary. I think the acceptable parameters are 65 to 83. So it can vary, and because of that, you need some sort of a method to be able to tell what's in it in order to be able to use it. So that's one of the issues. The other issue is the fuel mileage you're going to get, because E85 I think runs around about a 9 AFR, air fuel ratio, whereas E10 runs at about 13.89. I believe our cars are set to. I know it uses a Stoic of 0.0720 after 2015. Prior to that, it was at 0.0688. The 0.0688 is 14.5. Hemis always run lower, lower AFR, a little bit more rich than a standard combustion engine, which would be at 14.7. But that's just the Hemi and the way it needs it. That's the fueling it likes. So let's talk about E85 in general. So it can, I think the average everybody's trying to go by is between 10 or 100 and 105 octane. And that's the R method, the RON method. In the States, we use the R divided by N, times N divided by 2 method for determining octane. But E85 uses just the RON. So with RON, you're going to be up around 120, but if you kind of recalculate that and try to adjust based on other percentages, you're going to be around between 100 and 105. Depends on how much ethanol is in the fuel, but it's definitely better than 91 or 93. Of course, we know octane rating is a measure of the ability of a fuel to resist knock. And of course, we always want to stay away from knock. So that's a big plus. You know, the higher the octane, the lower the knock. If you have a better resistance to knock, you can add more timing. And you can sometimes run a little bit leaner, but mostly the advantage is to be able to run more timing. And more timing means a cooler engine, and cooler engine means more horsepower. Yada, yada, yada. So those are a couple of the big advantages. One other major advantage is the fact that E85 is an oxygenated fuel, and that means it's going to add oxygen. So, what do we use nitrous oxide for? Well, you burn out the nitrous, you end up with the oxides, and you have more oxygen. So we know nitrous makes power, so E85 kind of does in the same sense. Not the same manner, but the same sense, and it won't make as much horsepower as nitrous. A 50 shot of nitrous is going to give you 50 horsepower. E85 won't give you 50. Cost is a big factor. It's about $1.85 to $2 a gallon, depending on where you are. So that, at $5 a gallon at the pump, you're saving a ton of money on a fill-up. Now, the downside of that is that it's running an AFR of about 9, which is I don't know, I do the math real quick. It's probably a third less fuel mileage than you're going to get with a regular 91 octane. So you're going to burn a lot more fuel. It takes more fuel to create the same power with ethanol. It kind of doesn't make sense. Why would you want to do it if it takes more fuel? Well, because of the other factors. You're going to get oxygenated fuel, plus you're going to get a higher octane. So you can add the fuel. You're going to get that horsepower from that. So there's the big pluses. One of the other drawbacks to it, besides the fuel mileage, is availability. I can't even get it. I've searched all over northern Nevada and I can't find it anywhere. I would have to order it in a 55-gallon drum. And of course, once you pop that drum, it's only going to live for so long because the ethanol attracts so much water. It's going to go stale on you almost right away. So, it's like a great thing for me. If I was just going to race, I would buy a 55-gallon drum, go to the track, pop the cap, seal it back up again as fast as possible. Still going to get air in there. But I'd run that whole thing through for the day. If I had a pump locally that I could get it from, I'd definitely be on it, like, stink on poop. But so those are the kind of the drawbacks. The other thing is that you have to add some stuff, some hardware, in order to be able to use the E85, because even though if you use HP tuners and you look in there, you'll see all this flex fuel stuff. Well, it's not for your Challenger. It's for other vehicles. I don't know if it's in there for the Demon or what, but there is something called sensorless FFV, which is flex fuel. You've got narrowband O2 sensors. There was a guy that was running it, and he said that it actually was seeing the alcohol percent in the PID, but it wasn't ever getting above 15, which makes sense. So the sensorless method doesn't work. It is in the tune, but it's not functional. I'm going to fire up something real quick here, so it's ready. Let's talk about what we're going to use for our kit, for our flex fuel kit. So I went out to the internet and I searched around, and I did, I looked at a lot of the different kits out there. There's one that came across to me, and I have not tested it. So I urge you to go out and do further research. But it looks to me like it's a pretty darn good system. So I'm going to switch over to my desktop real quick here, and we'll take a look at that. So this is the system. It's made by a company called E85 Fuel. You put when you first fire up their page, you go ahead and put your vehicle information, and it will pull up their E85 system. And this one happens to be, they say up here, for a 2021 Challenger, and then down here it says it's for a 2019 to 2023. If it works on a 2019, it'll work on a 2018, because the change didn't come till 2022. So I suspect this one will work on every year. But you want to go up and do the search and put your vehicle information in. I got my vehicle info here. You could edit that, make it a different unit. Actually, let's just do that. Let's go to Dodge and see if, let's go to a 2012 Challenger 5.7 and check that and see if it comes up with the same thing. Yeah, it's the same model. So this will work on every year. When it first comes up, you're going to get the E85 Plus. What the system I would recommend is the E85 Pro. It's a couple of $100 more, but it is, I believe it's worth every penny of that. And here's why. This right here patent pending virtual load sensor, no tapping in external load sensor required. No, you don't need to tap into an external load sensor, but I'm pretty sure you're going to tap into the map sensor. I didn't go through the full instructions on this kit, but if you tap the map sensor, you'll get, on startup, you're going to get barometric pressure, and then you'll get map pressure. And if you divide map divided by baro, that's going to give you your pressure ratio. And if you get your pressure ratio, it can calculate the load. So that makes perfectly good sense. I like that because you can actually end up being able to tune the you monitor, you can log and tune, create ethanol tables for the unit itself. It won't affect your tables, it's just affecting the unit here. So you can actually create ethanol tables. They have a software product, I believe, that comes with it. And then you should also, if you don't have one, I recommend you do get a wideband sensor and throw it in. It will help you with this. And, you're making a pretty major change. I would recommend, do go ahead and do the wideband O2 sensor. It's pretty easy if you got long tubes. It's not going to be as accurate if you're doing it with stock exhaust manifolds, but it'll work. The other thing is that it's going to recommend larger injectors, especially if you added a cam, headers, and other things. If you've already got those mods done, it's time to bump up your injectors anyway. So that's a good choice. If on a stock vehicle, I would probably not bump the injectors until I know I need them, and I can verify. That way I can select the right injectors and not go too big. Because if you go too big, it can be just as bad as not having enough. You won't be able to reduce the pulse width enough in order to run back on 91 octane. You just won't go that low. You won't be able to reduce it to that small of an amount and barely spray any fuel at all. So you got to be careful with that when you're selecting injectors, that you don't go too large. I know a lot of guys go, I'm just put the biggest injector I can get. Well, no, it's not. It's never a good idea. Get the injectors that are best suited for what you need. I suppose you could probably use the Hellcat injectors and get away with it, but you won't know that until you actually get your testing done. I prefer injector dynamics, and it's a matter of communications. I know I can call injector dynamics and say, hey, this is what I just did in my car. I'm currently logging my injectors at, let's just go take a look. Let me load my trusty, faithful old log file. I know I got a wide open throttle on this guy, so it's pretty easy. I'll jump down here real quick and run the cursor back. And that's good enough right there. So injected duty percentage right now is at 60.63. So I always use 80% as my limit. And some people say, oh, you can go further than that. Well, it's not worth the risk, because suppose you do get knock, and the way that the system reacts is to throw fuel at it and pull timing. Well, if it throws fuel at it and you're at 80%, you're getting pretty close to 100% duty cycle. And if you actually need more than 100%, you risk leaning out that cylinder and not correcting that knock and damaging the car. It's a risk. It doesn't mean it's gonna happen, but it's a risk, and I don't want to participate in. The other thing is your fuel pump. Will it keep up with it? Right now at the 60 mark, I am 60.63 and my fuel flow rate is 79.6. I'd want to be in a 250 minimum, 250 pound per hour fuel pump in order to make sure that I always had adequate supply of fuel. So I probably, I can't remember what the Hellcat is. I think it's around 250. I would probably bump up to a Hellcat fuel pump. It's a real straight, easy swap, and you still don't need a return line. And this system doesn't need a return line either. So, yeah, if you go this guy here, it's just a nice little system. It just seems like it's pretty good. You can manage it on your cell phone for when you're in the vehicle. You can change modes. Let me see if it shows the modes down here. There's a ton of videos here too, and they're really easy to get to. So if we look at, yeah, there's the different screenshots of what your cell phone will present to you, which is pretty cool. It's monitoring duty cycle also. So you could monitor there without having the log data. You could just sit there and say, oh, shoot, I'm getting too close. You know, you can with all the information you can add in. You can swap it from economy to dynamic to sport mode, which is kind of cool. You can do that on the fly. You know, push the sport mode button, push this into sport mode, and off you go. You know, it's just got a lot of cool features. Now, horsepower gains, on average, with E85 and a stock engine, you're probably going to pick up around 12, possibly as high as 15%. On a stock engine, you have to remember that, especially the 22s and 23s, these things are tuned so tight and so well from the factory, and we proved it, you know, several times over. You really can't get anything. You can change the way they feel, but you're not going to get much more horsepower out of it trying to tune it. Once you add in things like camshafts and you improve airflow with headers, maybe a different intake, different throttle body, those good things. And yeah, you can get those. You're going to get more horsepower gains with E85. But on a stock motor, you can count on 12 to 15%. So with mine, you know, that's going to, if I'm down here right now, 308.4 horsepower. I don't know if that's my max or not. Let's see what I did. What was my max there? I never hit 360. This here is crankshaft, and this is real horsepower. So I actually got to back that over to the real, because the calculations were, this is at the rear wheel horsepower is not corrected for altitude. It's at 4,000 feet. So 308, let's just call 308 a good number. So we'll pull up our little handy dandy Windows calculator. It's 308, and we'll multiply it by 1 point. Let's say we get 13%. We're going to get 348 horsepower out of it. That's to the wheels, 1 horse per cubic inch. That's pretty darn sweet at the wheels for a stock motor. So that's what you can expect by going E85. So you spend $1,000. You don't have to make any more changes at this point if you don't want to. You could leave it totally stock, and you're going to pick up, you know, what is that? Quite a bit of horsepower. It's 40 horse, you know. I don't know if that's accurate, but it's a good estimate. I would probably pick up around 40 horse to the wheels. I think that's a little bit overestimated, but you know, we won't know until we see. So let me switch back to my desktop here. I gotta remember how to do. Okay, boop, boop. There we go. Okay, so is E85 viable? Yeah. So what are some of the other things we need to consider? Well, if we have higher octane and we've got a better resistance to knock, can we add timing? Um, yeah. Um, you have to understand, even though Ford brags about their ability to add timing on the fly, um, Dodge has been doing it all along. And Ford just caught up to us. But they only do that on the Coyote. We do it on everything. So we have the MBT table, max brake torque, okay? And there's upper limits. So in high octane mode, your upper limit's 40. You should not ever see it exceed 40. It should hold it and should stop it. There may be little slight variations where you go slightly over, but it's going to come right back. But MBT, because MBT will say, hey, wait a minute, you just exceeded, let's go back. And so it sets it at 40 on high octane mode. You could bump that, and that's where I would make the changes. I would not make the changes to any other tables because it's flex fuel, and it's flexible quantities of ethanol. If you get stuck someplace and you can only get 91 octane fuel, do you really want to load another tune? Because that's what you'd have to do if you changed on any other tables, because you'd have to put timing back to what it would be with 91 octane versus 105 or 103, whatever you're getting. So no, you don't want to change it there. You want to carefully modify the MBT table so that it can make adjustments, or the system can make adjustments that will exceed the normal limits. So if it's at 40 now, maybe bump it to 42 or 43 and see how much it'll take. Eventually you're going to hit knock. When you do, back it down. So, just be careful. When you're testing, it's hard to test without getting that wide open throttle pull. It's just so tempting not to. Steady state testing is the most boring thing in the world. I do it, but I don't like it. On a dyno, you probably get a little better wide open throttle testing done, and then you can make your adjustments. And with this system, I mean, it just makes sense to me. It comes with the software. You can create your own ethanol tables, and if you can do that, it's air, fuel, spark. If air's right, fuel's right, spark will be right. This is the way the Dodge system works. So, yeah. Anyway, I thought I'd get this out to you and highly recommend Flex Fuel E85. I think it's a great option to have. You don't have to run it all the time if you use this the kit, the E-Flex Fuel kit, your E-Fuel Flex kit. Then you can run whatever you want. Run what you brung. On the track, you take that barrel of E85 with you, or get track fuel, which is you can get track fuel E85. Run that, or you can if you can get it in town. But if you're getting it in town, it's not very controlled, so you kind of at whatever you get. So yeah, all right. So that's enough. Enough talking about E85. Like I said, I highly recommend it. It's a great option, and it's easy to do. Installation of that kit, I think an average mechanic can do it in about, with testing, an hour and a half. If you're pretty good with wrencher, if you're a DIY person, it's kind of a medium difficulty level. And I think they put that medium on it because you got to make up some connectors, and you got to tap into your map sensor. You need a multimeter so you can find out which pin, unless you got a really good wiring diagram. If you can find two diagrams that agree with each other, you probably could trust it. That's the hard part. But the multimeter will tell you right away which is the signal pin. So you do have to identify the injector signal pin so you can wire the connectors correctly. That's probably the most difficult part. Everything else is just plug and play. Now, if you had to change the injectors, yeah, you got to pop the fuel rails off. I'll tell you what I would do if I hadn't done it already is even on a stock motor, if I'm going to pop fuel rails, I'm popping the intake. And the reason I'm popping the intake is it gives me an opportunity to go ahead and change out the intake manifold gaskets, which often they leak, especially if the manifold's been allowed to. The manifold bolts have loosened up on you, and you blow out one of those. You'll never know it until you get it open up and take a look at it. But so that's how I would do that injector. I would pull the whole manifold off, pull the fuel rails, and then go ahead and change the injectors and put it all back on there. It doesn't take that long. It's a pretty easy job. Okay, so that's it. I'm done for the day. It's been a long day. It's actually not a bad day, though. Beautiful weather. Y'all guys take care. Thanks a lot. Like and subscribe. Have a good one. Bye.